Is it time to drop Hollywood Brown?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
What's up, Guff? Grown-up fantasy football is back. James is enjoying this a little too much.
That was funny. That caught me off guard.
I have to welcome the Guff gang.
You've never done that before, ever.
Who's ever heard me say, "What's up, Guff"? Yeah.
Don't you say that every episode?
Never.
If it does, it's very soft. It's very welcoming. That was harsh.
I got to let the people know what's going on. Actually, I'm not going to let you know what's going on today. James, you tell them what's going on today. What are we talking about?
We're talking about a man who has pooped his pants. Hollywood Brown. Not playing good football. We're going to talk about what happened, what we think is going to happen going forward.
Emphasis on the Brown.
That's right. Be bad-mouthing Hollywood Brown. Maybe there's something redeeming there. We'll let you know.
Maybe we should call him Bollywood Brown.
Why?
Or Dollywood. Dollywood, that's it. Wait, no. I don't know.
Why either of these?
Yeah, that's a good question. But before we get any further into this, please, if you don't mind, hitting that subscribe button down below. We put in a ton of work on these videos, and we put them out 4 times a week. So if you want to get notified whenever we're posting Tuesday through Friday, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get notified. Boys, are we ready to find out what happened to Hollywood Brown?
I think we are.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into the facts and stats here. Hollywood Brown is your wide receiver 54.5 point PPR on the season. He has had 32 receptions on 59 targets, 431 yards. He is averaging 13.5 yards per catch, and he has 2 touchdowns on the season. He is projected to finish with 51 receptions on 94 targets for 690 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is averaging 8.7 fantasy points per game and 1.5 fantasy points per target. So let's talk about what the season has been like up until now, Zach.
Up until now, the season has been a little murky. We've seen possibly a little Brown. We've seen some good games from him. So we've seen like 6 target games, 8 targets, 10 targets even. I think that's the highest that he's received in targets this season. So there's certain times where you're like, okay, he's the number one on that team. He is the number one receiver, minus Mark Andrews. They have to pass the ball somewhere, so it could go to him. But at the same time, we've seen and we've actually started seeing more of those 2 target games, those 3 target games, and him really not being utilized that well. Now, I love the 13.5 yards per catch, but at the same time, he's really not getting enough catches per game to solidify that. So up till now, it's been a roller coaster. It's been ups and downs, but more downs than not. Like, I think the highest he's scored this season is about 16 points, where he's a sleeper. He might be in your flex and stuff, but we were really hoping he would kind of carry this away and be a good wide receiver 2 and maybe wide receiver 1 some week upside for you. But up till now, we haven't seen that. Joey, what do you think?
Yeah, the name of the game for Hollywood Brown has been inconsistency. A few things I want to point out about him this year. So the Ravens had their bye in week 7, and before the bye, he had 6 or more targets in every game. And then after the bye, he's averaging 3.8 per game. And he's only catching like 50% or more most of the time. There's a few times he's catching like 20% of his targets or 33% of his targets. He doesn't have enough production on what he's getting. He's not as efficient as he could be. It's inconsistency within his targets, but it's inefficiency. He's only topped 50 yards 4 times, and they were all before the bye. So something happened after that bye week that either led the Ravens to run the ball more or led Lamar to look elsewhere, more towards Mark Andrews, Willie Snead, Devin Duvernay was getting snaps. He hasn't been as efficient as you kind of hoped. And like you said, he's a sleeper. He wasn't your wide receiver 1. You're not drafting him in like the 3rd round or the 4th round or even the 1st or 2nd. He was like a 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th round pick.
Yeah.
So he's somewhat limited by the run-first offense, but we've seen other receivers like A.J. Brown be super efficient in a run-first offense. Just hasn't really worked out for Hollywood Brown.
Yeah. To get into what's wrong here, the guy's week 1 he had over 100 yards. Week 4 and 5, solid fantasy games. Other than that, he has not had double-digit fantasy points in any other game. And I really don't think the blame's with Lamar Jackson. I think this is a talent issue. I don't think he's as good as we thought he was going to be. I think he regressed from last year. I think he's getting enough targets to where he should be successful. I've seen a lot of plays, a lot of deep bombs that he could have turned into a big play, and he doesn't come down with the catch. And you should come down with the catch in the NFL. So for me, I think it's a talent issue.
So the thing is, he only has 2 drops on the season.
Yeah, but so that's like if it hits his hands. There's plays where he's running deep. He looked the other way.
Oh, God.
He looked and didn't catch the football. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just got to watch it. Watch him play.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff wrong with this scenario. I don't necessarily think like his talent's like a huge drop off than what we thought, but I do think there is some inconsistency with his play. But I think there's a lot of things wrong because with this Ravens offense as a whole, they are run first and run heavy. And then on top of that, with Lamar Jackson, I feel like there has been a huge regression with him since last season to where his passing efficiency hasn't been as great. So that's directly going to reflect on Marquise Brown. So there's a lot of pieces that are wrong right now with this scenario.
Yeah, well, enough talking about what's wrong with him. Let's talk about what's good with Hollywood Brown.
What's good?
Zach, why don't you start with what's good with Hollywood?
Well,
mainly
he plays
because
in the NFL. That's good. That's good.
Great. Good start.
So one thing that is good, I actually think, is that the Ravens their coaching staff has come out and said, hey, other teams know the plays that we're going to run. Like they're keying in on what we're doing. This has not looked like the same Ravens offense that we've seen last year where they were just this high-powered offense, could not be stopped. I think they're going to key in on the run better. Other teams will, to where passing will have to be one of the primary options at times. Mm-hmm. And we've seen Marquise Brown, actually. He's a squeaky wheel this year. We thought it would translate earlier on, but it might translate later on. So who knows? But I could see those things being good. Another thing I could see is he doesn't face a top 10 defense in terms of against a receiver the rest of the year. All the defenses he goes against, Dallas, number 29 against the receiver, the Jaguars, number 25, Cleveland, number 22, the Giants, number 16. And then if you play in playoffs up till week 17, he plays against the Bengals. So all super easy matchups against the wide receiver.
Yeah, and he's one of the fastest players in the NFL, so he could turn it around and break out any second. I think you can rationalize playing him in your flex every week and hoping this is the week he turns one catch for 80 yards into a touchdown. That's the kind of player he is.
Yeah, I will say one thing that I like about Hollywood Brown is he has 19 deep targets on the season, and then it ranks 5th among all wide receivers. So the opportunity is there, but he's just got to get it done. Zach, you just alluded to it. Let's talk about his schedule going forward. So we're getting to the very end of the regular season in fantasy football. You're about to enter playoffs. What do we think of his schedule moving forward? He's got Dallas, like you said, 29th. And then week 15, when your playoffs probably start, Cleveland at 22, Jacksonville at 25, the Giants at 16, and the Bengals at 20. What do we think about that schedule?
The only problem with that schedule, and I know it looks like a very favorable and easy schedule, especially for the receiver, but at the same time, none of these are that elite of teams besides maybe the Browns, and even then they're pretty inconsistent with their elite play. So any one of these games could be a shootout Ravens side to where they just lean run heavy the rest of the game. So it's almost like you want to see them go against actual teams that are good against the QB, that are good against the run, that are good against the pass. So that way they have to come from behind or they have to utilize the pass more. So yes, it's a good schedule coming forward, but at the same time, it's still not the most promising thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good schedule. It's good matchups. Do you trust Hollywood to be successful in these games? I don't.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, James. I don't know about this. I mean, so far he has not been efficient. And the Ravens right now are fighting for playoff position and even a playoff spot in general. So I think they're going to be aggressive, but I also think they're going to lean towards Old Reliable. And Old Reliable last year was the read option, the speed option, running Lamar Jackson. Not really throwing a whole lot. Now, he could turn it around, like you said, and be dominant. Not necessarily dominant, excuse me. Right. But he could be very efficient. What am I saying? But I guess the question is that I'll pose to you two, is it time to drop Hollywood Brown?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I do not want him on my team for the rest of the season. He's very high risk, high reward. But I feel like you can't drop him. Like, he could turn it on and another team would have him. I wouldn't drop him.
Yeah, I actually was going to drop him in one league that I have him. And everyone in the industry says, yeah, you can drop him up to this point. He's nothing for you. And after this week of all of the COVID cases or people being placed on injured reserve, all of this going into playoffs, I'm too afraid to drop him at this point. That's a good schedule. And if one of my starting receivers doesn't play a week in fantasy playoffs because of being placed on IR or COVID reserve or whatever it is, I want some sort of backup on my team to where I could say, hey, they've got a good schedule. They're talented. They're on a high-powered offense. I can plug them in. And yes, they're boom or bust, but hopefully it'll be a boom week.
Some sort of backup. I guess that's how you describe.
I don't know what kind of backup, but some sort.
Yeah, it's tough. I think the only reason I would hold him is because of COVID concerns and people getting injured a lot higher rate this year. And the schedule is nice, but I do not think he's going to pull through this year. So I would only keep him just because of a backup, some sort of backup.
Some sort.
Yeah. So if you haven't noticed by now, that's what happened to Hollywood Brown. We just cracked the code for you. So you're welcome. But let us know in the comments what you think happened to Hollywood Brown. Let us know if you want to hold on to him for the playoffs, if you're in the playoffs, or if you're dropping him back onto the waivers, getting rid of that ish. But feel free to subscribe and like and comment. Do all the nice things. We would love that. We'd really appreciate it if you did. You're laughing. You're laughing at me, Zach.
I appreciate your appreciation.
That's right. Everybody's appreciative here at GUFF. And be sure to go like and subscribe. Be sure to grow up and be sure to get guffed.